Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg Srivastava with the Deepest Dream podcast. This is my first episode for Deepest Dream. The podcast essentially will complement my main website, which is deepestdream.com. A lot of these interviews that I have are with film and television professionals, artists, whatnot. Will there be a running theme regarding these podcasts? I will ask, I guess the motif for me would be how are these people, at least most of these interviews, how are they achieving their dreams? How do they actually have the guts to actually follow their path in life, and where do they find that inspiration? So if you're looking for a little bit of pop culture along with maybe insights and inspiration, subscribe to this podcast feed. I will hopefully have I'm not the best interview in the world. I think I'm okay, but a lot of the talent that I'm going to get, a lot of the artists I'm going to get will be very interesting and engaging and wonderful to chat with. And hopefully you'll get some value added stuff from this Deepest Dream podcast. I will talk more about it in the future, but right now for the first episode, for brevity's sake, The Voice Battles airs in several hours. Wanted to get these two artists on the podcast feed immediately so you guys can learn about their lives before The Voice happens tonight with the battles. But okay, without further ado, I have two artists for this episode. First up is Simone Marijic, and she is part of Team Kelsey. More on her in a few seconds, in a few moments. And then the second artist is Naomi Soleil, and Soleil is part of Team Buble. This is all probably a different language if you don't know Team Buble, Team Kelsey, Team Adam. I'm a huge fan of The Voice. So if you are a fan of The Voice, please listen to this Deepest Dream podcast because I will continue to have a lot of interviews with these artists. If you're a movie fan and TV fan, I will be having different episodes focusing on those interviews as well. But for this first episode of Deepest Dream, there will be the interviews again with Simone Marijic and Naomi Soleil. Okay, so Soleil will be the second interview. I will talk about Simone in a few moments while I get my notes. Okay, now, Simone Marijic. She is currently a student over at the University of Virginia. She is a Los Angeles resident. She's Croatian American. I'm sure that's probably the way one would say that. On her package for The Voice, it was great that her Croatian heritage was spotlighted in that package. That was very good to see. I asked her about that. I also asked her about performing at the Walt Disney Concert Hall when she was, I think, in eighth grade or something, if I recall. And it was a selfish question that I asked her because way back in the day, from 2003 to 2012, okay, I lived right across the street at the Walt Disney Concert Hall. If you're ever interested in living in downtown Los Angeles, the high rise called the Museum Tower. By the way, I don't know if it's still awesome, but that was an awesome near decade experience for me. So unfortunately, I only went to several concerts at the Disney Concert Hall. If I could turn back time, I would be at the concert hall every single week. But in 10 years, maybe I saw 5 or 6 concerts over at the hall. And I asked her about that. It's a beautiful section of downtown Los Angeles. It's called Bunker Hill. As much as I'm passionate about The Voice, I'm also passionate about the city known as, or the section of DTLA called Bunker Hill. Also, she talks about, I should have asked her about performing the Olivia Rodrigo tune Favorite Crime, which I missed out on in the interview. I think it's about a 9 or 10 minute interview with Simone's, but it's a very interesting interview because she was in a car and she was speaking on, I think, on her iPhone or whatever phone she had. So the audio may not be completely pristine, but hopefully you can get the really great energy she had during the interview. And what's interesting is since she's going to the University of Virginia currently, LA resident, I also asked her about is she going to put 100% of her energy into music? I'm not going to spoil what she says. That's towards the end of the interview. And yeah, that's my interview with Simone Marijic. I really enjoyed her rendition of Favorite Crime. It has a very, I forgot who called her an angelic voice. I think it was Kelsey Ballerini. And again, as of the blinds section of The Voice, she is part of Team Kelsey. Very just cheery, great smile, just a great energy with Simone. Really loved speaking with her, even though there's a couple of times when you listen to the audio edits, it might seem a little bit rough. That's because I had to cut a couple of times when the Wi-Fi was screwy due to her being in the car with a phone. So yeah, would love to hear what you think of Simone Marijic and her music and being part of Team Kelsey. And on The Voice, here is my interview with Simone. So I might butcher the name. So when I butcher it, you can definitely correct me, okay?
Okay, okay.
So I'm here with Simone Marijic
Yeah, great.
with Team Kelsey. Simone, pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You have
Pleasure.
such, I really loved your performance.
Thank you.
You have such a great voice. How nervous were you on the day? And when you look back on it, what are your feelings? What are your emotions?
Yeah, yeah. It was definitely weird to watch it back because I was definitely super nervous before the actual performance, but also there was so much rehearsal that went into it beforehand. So by the time I got there, I guess we'd practiced it so much that you sort of kind of go on autopilot when you're performing it. So it was a crazy mix of emotions. It's definitely like nerves and excitement, but mostly nerves.
As high as you were on that day on a good way, what is it
Yes.
like to see your parents just watching you and then just taking in your success for that day?
Yeah.
That must mean a lot.
Yeah, that was probably the most special part of like watching it back because I didn't actually get to see them react until the premiere. So yeah, that was really special to watch. They were like really excited, but they were also really nervous, and they don't actually really remember my full performance because we were talking about how much we kind of blacked out because of just how crazy it was.
So, so what has it been like within the last almost year, keeping that a secret? Not maybe from your
Mhm.
most intimate friends, but from the
Yes.
socials and people. What's the main challenge as far as those 10 months go?
Yeah, the good thing is I was supposed to study abroad last semester when I took off school. So I just told people I was abroad and the friends that at school like were just telling people I was abroad. But then there came a certain point where I couldn't, maintain that. So I started telling people I was just at home for music things and sort of keeping it vague. But it was so nice being able to finally tell people when I was allowed to. And it
I,
just, a lot of people were really confused, like why I wasn't saying what I was doing.
Look, very selfish question. When you were a
Yes.
kid, I don't know what age you were, you performed at the
Yeah.
Walt Disney Concert Hall. I used to
Yeah.
live right across the street, so I'm selfishly asking a question. What was it like to
Wow.
perform in such an awesome venue?
That was an incredible experience. I kind of wish I had done it when I was a little bit older because I was in eighth grade at the time. Um, but yeah, and it was like maybe like 500, 600 performers there, and combined with the choir I was in, as well as the LA Philharmonic and the Master Chorale, and like just so many performers. It was just an epic like performance. It was amazing. The venue is beautiful. Like I'd grown up going there for performances, so being able to actually sing there was so incredible. And we actually got to perform there a few times. So definitely one of the cooler places I've ever performed at.
On things being cool, was it kind of cool to have your package, the voice package, just give a little bit of a slice of your Croatian culture? How awesome was that to
Yes.
have that interspersed into your piece?
It made me so happy to watch because I didn't know we did a lot of interviews beforehand and I sent them a lot of different footage like of my family in Croatia, but also, life at UVA and like other things. So I didn't really know what they were gonna focus on. Um, but I think they did a beautiful job putting it together and it was just lovely to see like my family members, and I sent that they couldn't really watch it over there because of like they didn't know where to stream it, but yeah, it was so nice that they got to see themselves on the show. And yeah, it was just a big part of my identity, obviously. And so it was really, I like that they focused on that for this first episode.
Now, you mentioned the word music things as far as it being
Yes.
a secret. What are some of the music things you learned during your journey on The Voice that will, I guess, help propel you forward as an artist?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you are exposed to so many learning opportunities. Sorry for the car. You're exposed to so many different, learning opportunities. And I think I honestly learned the most from like the other contestants that were on the show and being around them, their styles. I definitely absorbed some of that, especially with like their songwriting and everyone just brought such cool things to the table. So I definitely learned a lot through that. Even like I had people teach me like production things for like music production. So that was awesome because there's a lot of people there write and record and produce their own music. So I learned a lot about that. And just, the coaches obviously were very helpful. And they all had like different, different perspectives, which was helpful. Like obviously they come from different genres, but they had different things that they liked. They had different pieces of advice. So I learned a lot from that. In terms of like something I will hold with me after the show, a piece of advice I got from actually from the band director, Paul. He does he leads all like the band rehearsals. He's incredible. And we were rehearsing one of the songs I sang, and he told me that people don't want to hear musicians and singers sing in their comfort zone. Like they don't want to hear something sound easy. They want to hear a singer like push themselves to like their limits. So that is something that has stuck with me for sure.
Regarding pushing your limits, then you're a double
Yes.
major at UVA, so you're actually pushing your limits because you're actually
Yeah.
following so many different kind of pathways. Where do you see yourself maybe several years from now? Is music gonna always be your number one, or does there not have to be a number one because you have different loves?
Yeah. I definitely think it's going to be like balancing different loves, like you said. I want to keep doing music and I'm going to keep, I think, writing and releasing music. But I'm not closing myself off to like other opportunities that may come up, whether that's going to graduate school, like law school, something like that. I'm definitely still open to that.
And you're also doing music on TikTok and IG.
Yeah.
And have you been okay?
Yes.
So I haven't
Yeah.
kind of doom scrolled through every single post, but are
Yeah.
you posting more lately because of what's going on in The Voice, or maybe you've just always been posting and I'm clueless?
Yeah. I definitely go through waves. I've been trying to post more because it's great exposure right now and they just post a lot, which has been a little bit hard because of, school and life and things being busy. So that's stuff I'm trying to prioritize that because it is important and I want to do more covers and things like that. But yeah, I used to post a lot on like TikTok and then I sort of realized it was taking up so much of my life and then I stopped for a while and now I'm sort of easing my way back into it.
Great. And I'm done. I think I had maybe
Yeah.
one more question to ask you.
Yeah.
We talked about lessons you've learned. Where do you see yourself several years from now? Just curious question. Now that you're at UVA, is LA always going to be
Yeah.
your home? And did you say when, I guess the voice contestants, the artists, they were in a hotel, did you tell them, "Hey, I'm good because it's like right in my back door. I can just drive in."
Yes.
Oh, okay. How did that work out for you? Like, did you have to do the hotel or?
Actually, no. Yeah, I had to be in the hotel the whole time. But I mean, there were opportunities to like go home and stuff, but I tried to go home. I didn't go at all, I think, during the whole process while we were at the hotel because I sort of wanted to, immerse myself in the experience and not step out of it because like 99% of the people there live like across the country, so they couldn't just go home. So I wanted to like be around my friends there as much as I could. So I honestly didn't go home very much because I'll have time to go home and I won't have time to, won't have the chance to go back and be in that hotel with those people.
So, well, thank you so much for your time. Really looking forward to seeing you more on The Voice, and we'll follow your music career post The Voice as well. And
Thank you. I
no
appreciate
worries.
it.
I hope to goodness that there is not a wheel under you right now that you're just driving during this interview. So that's
No,
I'm
I'm
kidding.
not driving. I'm
I'm kidding.
not
I'm
driving.
kidding. Thank you so much, Simone.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you, Greg.
Okay, next up, here is my interview with Naomi Soleil, and this is a very interesting, completely different artist than Simone. She dubs herself an alternative folk artist. She is part of Team Buble. One of the questions I asked her was, what was it like learning and collaborating with Michael Bublé on during the battle rounds? And she had really great things to say about how wise he is. So that was a very cool comment from her. And she also talks about some of the lessons she's learned in songwriting, which I'm not a songwriter, but this is something that can be applied for, I'm assuming, anything in life. But for her, when she began songwriting at the age of 9, and she was basically saying, be open to failure, be open to failing, and realizing that a lot of the stuff that you do, that you create, you may not like it. There may be days when you might not like songwriting or what you're doing. Just stick through it, and that's how you grow. Very grounded way of looking at the artistic process from Naomi. And I hold on one second. I was there's to go to my Spotify, and I got to figure out there was a song I really liked from her, and it was sort of a synchronistic moment. I'm gonna pull it up right now, but also a couple of other facts regarding Naomi is she is a student over at the Berklee College of Music. I think she's currently a sophomore. She actually, the first time she put out music was at the age of 12. So actually, if you go to, I do use Spotify to listen to my music. So if you go to Spotify and look up Naomi Soleil, you will see that she's actually released an album and a couple of EPs. I followed her on Spotify. This is something that I thought was very interesting. Okay. I, Look, synchronicity, Carl Jung, and coincidence and whatnot. This was very interesting for me. Might be not interesting for you, but very quickly. In 2023, she released an EP called Ballad of the Doors. And I was just randomly listening to some of the cuts on the album. This song, which I really enjoyed, called The Apple and I, the lyrics, the giving tree, the giving the giving tree was actually part of one of the lyrics on her track, The Apple and I. And what's interesting is several hours before, when I woke up, I randomly thought to myself, the giving tree. I don't even know what that's about. I can't believe I'm in my early 50s and I haven't really thoroughly researched the giving tree. And several hours later, I interview Naomi. Then I start listening to the song, The Apple and I, and that was just a coincidence. She actually used the giving tree as a point of like an allusion or point of reference into her songs. Her compositions are sort of very lyrical and poetry like and surreal and very interesting. So I would suggest listening to The Apple and I off of her EP Ballad of the Doors. Also like this track on that EP called Mayday Mayday. We'll be listening to more of her stuff down the road as well. But that was just a very synchronistic thing. And have I researched the giving tree after that synchronistic moment? Not yet. I have to get this podcast out with these interviews. And maybe when the day is done, when I'm done watching the battles and during the dead of night, I will start looking up the giving tree and maybe reread it. I think this the last time I read the giving tree was when I was a kid. And for some reason, that phrase was stuck in my head out of the blue in the morning. I don't know what that's about. So Naomi Soleil, again, Berklee College of Music. She talks about the advantages of going to that institution, how it's helped her in her artistry and using or following music as a career. She wants to be part of the music industry as, again, as an alternative folk artist in the future, not in the future, in the present day. So she's working hard for it over at the university. And what else? She also mentions a couple of her favorite albums towards the end of the interview. I'm not going to mention them, so I'll let her mention them during the interview. Okay, so that's it. Simone Marijic was the first one. Naomi Soleil was the second. It's I have actually a lot more interviews with the voice artists, and I should have actually put them on a podcast feed. If you do not want to listen to my ramblings and babblings of these intros, and you want the actual video interview of Simone and Naomi separately, of course, go to my Deepest Dream YouTube channel. I will have that linked up on the podcast show notes. And yeah, The Voice airs Mondays on NBC, on Peacock, or on NBC 8/7 Central, and and it streams on Peacock. I'm really excited to see what happens tonight on the first round or first installment of battles. But hopefully, crossing my fingers, hopefully Simone and Naomi have a little bit more time left on The Voice. Maybe they get past the battles. Who knows? And yeah, that's it. This is the first episode of Deepest Dream. I know it's rough and tumble, but hopefully these interviews gave you, I always use the word value added, but hopefully they give you insight into both of their artistry, and please follow their stuff, their stuff past The Voice. And I left all of the following stuff like Instagram on the show notes where you can listen to some of their music. All right, guys, take care and more interviews to come. Later. Bye. So I'm here with Naomi Soleil, Team Buble from The Voice. Pleasure to meet you.
Yes, pleasure to meet you too.
So first off, what did you learn during your journey on Team Buble? You're actually, it says on your bio, you've been songwriting since you were 9, put out
Yeah.
music to your when you were 12. So you're pretty much a vet, even though you're still pretty young, but you are a vet. So what did you learn during this whole experience on Team Buble?
I mean, I've never been in a situation like The Voice before. Michael Bublé was so humble and like wise. It was like talking to this like wise teacher. It was incredible, really, to learn from somebody who's been in this industry for as long as he has. He's like some mastermind genius, you know? It was incredible.
And also, did you learn a lot from the other artists that you made friends with along your journey? And what was that like just having so many different practices and musical backgrounds just sort of commingle in this whole sort of environment?
It was so interesting because I go to Berklee College of Music, so I'm surrounded by musicians as well. But being surrounded by that many vocalists all doing the same thing was really interesting for me because everybody is from, different backgrounds, everybody's different ages, everybody has different experiences. So it was really, really cool to make friends with everybody.
I really loved your rendition of Stars. It's such a very emotional and resonant song. Can you just talk about practicing for Stars and then finally going up on stage and just getting that two-chair turn and seeing the audience standing for you? What was that whole kind of experience like? And just the fact that you had a quality song to, as your anchor.
Yeah, so I have loved this song for a couple years now. I actually did it as one of my final performances for one of my classes here at Berkeley before The Voice. So I know the song very well, and it was just so amazing to get to perform it in front of that audience. It was unlike anything I've ever done before, really. It was so cool.
And then on the flip side, months later, seeing your performance on TV with, I'm sure, I don't know if you had a viewing party with your family or friends or where you were located. What was that whole experience like watching yourself live on The Voice?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've never been on TV before, so it was me and a couple of my friends and we're just sitting in front of the TV waiting for me to come on. Like everybody's going on through the episode and we're like, "Oh my gosh, am I gonna be next?" And then I came on and it was like, "Whoa, it's so crazy to see yourself on TV like that."
Well, how would you judge yourself on TV? What rating would you give yourself? Are you a harsh critic or did you give yourself a break when you when you saw yourself perform?
Um, I think it depends on the situation, but I thought I did pretty good. I had a lot of fun. I wasn't really nervous going into it. I was just more excited than anything. So I thought I did a pretty good job.
Quick question, just curious question. Songwriting starting at 9, musical family. They're really your whole family steeped in music. But when you have kids coming up to you, my niece is she's 8, she's gonna be 9 in August. What kind of advice or insights would you give just people who are starting, maybe no matter what age, and they want to start learning how to songwrite or just start putting pen to pad, so to speak?
I would definitely say to keep an open mind to failure and start getting really comfortable with failing and not being super happy with what you're doing because the only way to learn and make changes is to do something wrong and then you can learn from it. So I would definitely say if you're gonna go into something like the music industry, be be okay with not loving what you're doing every single time you do it. Be okay with making mistakes, with whatever. You got to be okay with failing in order to succeed.
So speaking of failing and succeeding, what's it like actually going to university in Berkeley? I'm not a music person in a tangible fashion. What does it give you as an artist and as a person who's just learning along the way?
Well, something that's super interesting, it's like I want to be in the music industry, of course, after college, and it's kind of like a warm up. We've got lots of classes that really prepare us for the real world. Like one class is called ensemble, and you're put with a bunch of different Berkeley students, and you work with a teacher and come up with a set list and perform with a band. Like, and it's all the students in the class, and it's really cool and really interesting. There's so many different people here, so many different amazing majors, and it's great to learn from everybody because it's like it's practice for the real world, essentially.
Speaking of practice, I recently interviewed Simone Marijic, and she was talking about the band director. She learned a lot from him as far as just advice and insights. What was it like for you, without giving too much away regarding the battles, but just during that round, what was it like learning with that live music experience?
Yeah, I mean, everybody there is just so good at what they do. It, oh my gosh, it's like you can say anything and they'll immediately know how to fix it or know what to change, and it all just comes together so nicely, so fast, it seems. Everybody is just so talented, and it's so awesome to be in front of a band like that.
Now, you were talking about you want to be in the music industry moving down the road, along down the road. Do you have a specific genre you want to focus in, or right now are you just open to exploring so many different facets?
So my end goal, or my goal in general, is to perform my own original music in front of whoever will listen. I am a alternative folk artist, and that's I've been working in that genre pretty much the whole time. I've been writing music, and I just I love sharing what I do. I think it's such a unique experience to have to share your music like that, and that's everything that I want.
What is it like to share your original music? Is it something that's very hard to put into words? And has that feeling changed as you evolved over the years as far as sharing your music?
After doing it for as long as I have, even though I'm only 19, um, it's you get better at it after a while, and you learn how to navigate this sort of path. At the beginning, when I started really getting serious about it, I mean, there were a lot of stuff that I would write, and then like I'd come back to it the next day and be like, wow, this is trash. So it's a lot of trial and error, but ultimately it's giving yourself a break and being okay with not loving everything that you do, because you're not going to love everything that you do, but that's how you move forward.
So, final couple questions. When people now, since your episode aired, what kind of reaction have you received? And I'm sure you've received maybe messages or DMs on how do I get on The Voice? What was your unlock? And what do you usually tell people as far as just sort of the broad base insight you give people who want to actually go on The Voice?
Yeah, so the responses from people have been great, but also some of them have been pretty mixed. Like, there are some people on Facebook who definitely have some strong opinions for all of us regarding our auditions, but I mean, that's a part of it, and you have to be okay with it. But in terms of auditioning, I did it like the old-fashioned way, and I submitted a an audition. I actually auditioned for the first time my senior year of high school. Um, and I went through that whole process, but I mean, the worst thing that could happen is you don't get it. And you might as well try, because it's experience and you can always try again next time.
Right. And final question, this is just a curious question. Growing up in a music family, and you are music is going to be a big part of your life moving down the road. Can you give our listeners maybe a couple of albums that you feel are your favorite and most personal albums that you love so much and that maybe
Yeah.
inspire you as an artist, and maybe
Mm.
you can educate our listeners and especially me as well. So for those, so thank you for your time and give us some two album picks. Yeah.
Sure. One of my favorite albums by Greta Van Fleet is Battle at Garden's Gate. I just everything about that album is so wonderful. And probably my favorite folk album by a smaller artist is Serotonalia by Cricket Blue. They're a duo. Um, and it's just incredible poetry, and you can learn so much from that writing, and it's just mind-blowing, really.
Naomi, thank you so much for your time and pleasure interviewing you, and we'll continue to follow your music post The Voice.
Yes, thank you. This has been great.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.